Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you what we had for dinner this past week. Our meals were easy, quick to put together, delicious, and budget friendly. So if you'd like some dinner inspiration, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I wanted something a little bit light. A big salad sounded good to me. This was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so we'd had some heavy meals. So I just put together some salads with the produce I had in the fridge. And then for my salad, I took a couple of chicken strips from Aldi, cooked those in the air fryer, and then cut them up on my salad. And then I whipped up a quick homemade honey mustard, which I will include the recipe in the description box below. My husband's, I omitted the chicken on his salad. And then for him, I made a toasted sandwich just with some leftover Thanksgiving turkey and some Swiss cheese. I toasted that in the air fryer, 5 minutes on each side. That was the first time I'd made like a grilled cheese or grilled sandwich in the air fryer, and it turned out really good. That was dinner tonight. For dinner this night, I took some of the leftover Thanksgiving turkey and I made a turkey pot pie. I will include the recipe link in the description box below for this. I've made this recipe before, except I used chicken, and I will include the link to my video for that as well. But this recipe actually comes from Crouton Cracker Jacks, and if you haven't seen any of his videos, I highly recommend them. I've made several of his recipes, this pie crust, the pot pie filling. He has a really great recipe for a small batch strawberry jam that's delicious. His au gratin potatoes are really good. Everything that I've tried from him is really good, and he does a really good job of explaining recipes and walking you through them. So like I said, I will include his videos in the description box below. Definitely go check them out. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in this video because, again, he does a great job of explaining it. But basically, to make the pie crust, you just want to mix your flour and salt in a mixing bowl. You're then going to cut in your shortening and add in your cool water until it starts to form a ball. And then you're going to turn the ball out onto a floured work surface. And then I'm going to cut this into about 2/3. Then I'm going to take that and roll it out until it's about 1 inch or 1.5 inches larger than my pie dish. Next, I'm going to transfer that into my pie dish. And just a quick note here, I am not at all a baker. I think this is only the second, maybe third pie crust that I've ever made before. But it's really easy. If you've never made a homemade pie crust before, if you have been like me and intimidated by it, give it a try. This recipe is really easy and it's really forgiving. So now that I've got my pie crust ready, I'm going to get started on my filling. So to do that, I've just got some butter that I'm melting in this medium saucepan. I'm going to add my onions and saute those for about 3 to 5 minutes. I'm then going to add in my flour and whisk that in and then cook that for about 1 minute. Next, I'm going to add in my milk and my chicken broth and give that a stir. When that starts to thicken, I'm going to add in my seasoning. So I'm going to add some seasoning salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, and some thyme, and give that a stir. And you want to taste this and adjust this to your family's preference. Now you're going to want to turn off your heat and then add in your diced cooked chicken or turkey. I'm using turkey here. And then I'm going to add in some cooked diced potatoes. I didn't have any russet potatoes, so I actually just took a can of potatoes, drained off the water, and diced up some just cooked potatoes. And then you're going to want to add your vegetables. I'm just adding some carrots and peas here, but again, use whatever you like. And then you want to let that cool for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to add my filling into my pie crust. And then I'm going to cover this with my second pie crust that I've rolled out. And then you're just going to want to trim off any excess pie crust and then crimp your edges together. Next, you'll want to brush the top of your pie with an egg wash, which is just an egg beaten with a little bit of water. And then you'll want to take your knife and cut some slits into it. I actually did it backwards in the video. I did my slits first and then I did my egg wash, but when you do that, you just basically seal together the slits anyway. So I just took a knife after I did the egg wash and went back in, but like I said, do the egg wash first, then cut your slits. And then I'm going to place this into a 375-degree preheated oven for about 45 to 60 minutes or until it's golden brown. And here's the pot pie out of the oven. You'll definitely want to let this cool for at least 15 to 20 minutes before you cut into it, just so that your filling can sit. And here are the finished plates. I just have a slice of the turkey pot pie along with some side salads. Dinner was really delicious. I highly recommend this recipe. For dinner this night, we just did some takeout. I was kind of overcooking for a little bit with all the Thanksgiving Day prep and cooking. So we got some barbecue from a local mom and pop place. They're really good and pretty inexpensive. I got this loaded baked potato. This had some pulled pork and bacon and cheese, all the good things. This is huge, by the way. I ate less than half of it and had half the next day. Then my husband got a pulled pork sandwich along with some potato salad and coleslaw. And then we got a small thing of their banana pudding for us to share, and that was dinner tonight. For dinner tonight, I'm going to make some Italian beef sandwiches. I had some leftover Italian beef that I had previously made in the freezer, so I just pulled that out to thaw. I'm going to serve it along with some of these tater bites from Kroger, and then I'm going to use some of these deli rolls from Aldi, and then some sliced Swiss cheese on mine, and then some sliced pepper jack cheese on my husband's sandwich. I'm first going to start on the tater tots because those will take the longest. So I'm just going to cook these according to the package directions. And about halfway through, I took them out and tossed them. And I'm going to add some of this French fry seasoning that I got from the Dollar Tree and then put them back in the oven to finish. Next, I'm going to get started on my sandwiches. So I've just taken those deli rolls. I've covered the insides with a little bit of butter, and now I'm going to take some of this Italian beef that I've just heated up in the microwave. I'm going to add the beef and then add the cheese and then pop it back into the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes or until the cheese is melted and the bread is toasted. And here are the sandwiches and tater tots out of the oven. And I will include the recipe for the Italian beef in the description box below. It's a crock pot meal. It's really easy to put together and really delicious. And here are the finished plates. So I just have our sandwiches and the tater tots, and we served that along with some ketchup, and that was dinner tonight. Tonight for dinner, I'm going to make some baked potatoes and a California Club salad. So to get started, I'm going to make the baked potatoes. I usually just cook these in the oven or the air fryer, but on this particular night, we were going to look at Christmas lights, and so I didn't know exactly when I would be back home, so I made these in the crock pot. So I just took some russet potatoes, I washed them really well, I've pricked them with a fork. I'm then going to rub them with some oil, some salt and pepper. I'm going to wrap them in foil, and then I'm going to place them into my crock pot on low, and I'm going to cook them for about 8 hours or until they're cooked all the way through. You can also cook these on high for about 4 hours if you don't have quite as much time, and these actually turned out really well in the crock pot. I'll definitely give this a try again. Now that it's closer to dinner time, I'm going to get started on the salads. So like I said, this recipe is called a California Club salad. I have no idea where it got the name from. This recipe is one of my mother-in-law's recipes, and we love this. I will include the recipe in the description box below. I had made the dressing earlier in the day, again, because I knew we were going to be gone. So that's already ready. And I've got the croutons made, and this recipe calls for homemade croutons, but you can absolutely just use packaged. But I'm going to add my lettuce, my tomato, my cheese, my green onions, my bacon, my croutons, and then I'm going to top this with some of the salad dressing. The recipe calls for cooked cubed chicken, but I didn't have any. I forgot to set some out to thaw, so I'm just omitting it tonight. It also calls for celery, but I do not like celery at all, so I always skip the celery. Sometimes I'll add in cucumber if I have it for that crunch, but I didn't have any cucumber tonight. But you could just make this your own. Use whatever ingredients you like, and if there's something listed that you don't like, just skip it. And here are the finished plates. So we have our salads, and then I have the baked potatoes. For our baked potatoes, we just added butter, sour cream, some shredded cheese, bacon bits, and green onions, but you can use whatever toppings you like. And that was dinner tonight. For dinner tonight, I'm going to make Korean flank steak and sesame noodles. My husband has been requesting this. This is one of his favorite meals. So to get started, I'm going to make the marinade for the flank steak. I'm going to take some rice vinegar, some grated ginger, and I'm just using this stuff from the tube from Trader Joe's. Then I'm going to add the soy sauce, and I got these recipes from a blog called For the Love of Cooking. I got these years ago. I've made them many times, and like I said, it's one of my husband's favorites, so I will include the recipes in the description box below. Next, I'm going to add in the sesame oil, the brown sugar, and then the garlic cloves, and then I'm going to give that a stir. The recipe does call for crushed red pepper flakes. I have them out on the counter. I have no idea why I didn't add them. It was fine without it, but it does give it a nice little kick. It's not a lot of heat, so I recommend you adding those. But I'm going to whisk that together, and then I have my flank steak here. It's just over a pound, about 1.25 pounds. I'm going to add the marinade and put that into the refrigerator. I usually like to do this overnight, but you can just do it a few hours in advance. And like I mentioned earlier, this is one of my husband's favorites. I don't make it a lot because flank steak can be really expensive. For a pound of it, it can be about $15 to $20. But my husband has been asking for this, and a couple weeks ago I was at Food Lion and I saw a flank steak that they had on markdown for like $7. So I grabbed it and put it in the freezer, and that's a great tip. If you have things like steak or something like that that are higher price items, watch for sales, see if you can catch them on markdown, and that's a great way to save some money. My steak has been marinating for a few hours and it's dinner time, so I'm going to get started on my sesame noodles. So I like to make this sauce first. So in this bowl, I'm just going to add my soy sauce, my brown sugar, and then the garlic. The recipe calls for fresh garlic, but to be honest, tonight I was just feeling kind of lazy. So I'm just using some garlic powder here, and then I'm going to add in my rice vinegar, then the sesame oil, then the sambal, then the oil, and then the water, then I'm going to give that a stir and set that aside. And then I'm going to cook my noodles according to the package directions. Now for the flank steak. I normally cook this on my grill or I use my cast iron pan, but again, I was feeling kind of lazy tonight, so I decided to try it in my air fryer, and it actually turned out pretty well. It didn't get brown, obviously, because you're not searing it, but it was actually pretty good. So I cooked it at 400 degrees for about 5 minutes on one side. I flipped it over and cooked it for another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to allow it to rest for about 5 minutes. While the steak is resting, I'm going to finish my noodles. I'm going to give the sauce one last stir, and then I'm going to add in my noodles. And you can use whatever vegetables you like. Tonight, I'm just using some sliced mushrooms and some sliced green onions, and then I will give that a stir, and then the noodles will be done. And then for the steak, I'm just going to slice this, and you want to make sure you cut it thinly and that you cut it against the grain. And here are the finished plates. So for my husband, I have the sesame noodles and then the sliced flank steak for him. For me, I wasn't in an Asian mood tonight. I had made a French onion chicken and rice bake that I had made for a meal for someone. So I just made a little bit extra and served that for myself. So that is dinner tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.